Topic: GDP, Good Documentation Practice. Purpose of the GDP: to establish a standard procedure that defines the requirements for good documentation practices for all documents and records to, handwritten and electronic, are clear, permanent, legible, accurate, consistent, authentic, and complete. Documentation and GDP in an organization. Document conclusion: the document is information, meaningful data, which could be in paper form, CD, computer files, or microfilm. Records should tell the company, auditor, or an inspector exactly the sequence of events, without creating a doubt. What happened? When? Where? Why, and by whom? Why documentation? To have the clarity about what we are going to do. To define the quality system. To prevent errors and a basis for control all the practices. To confirm that correct procedures have been followed and are consistent. To investigate problems, errors, defects, complaints etc., thereby determining the best corrective and preventive actions to take. Why so much of documentation and records? GDP/QSR. Documents, records or specific activities that take place during the design, manufacture, processing, packaging, testing, holding and distribution of products. This includes but is not limited to all controlled forms, all controlled logbooks, and all clinical, laboratory, manufacturing and packaging records. Definitions: approved by the person who evaluates the work performed to ensure it was done accurately, completely, and in accordance with the procedures. Approved by signifies support of the content, decision of the record. Performed by the person who performed and documented the work. Reviewed by or verified by the person who ensures that the work was performed promptly, accurately and documented for compliance and traceability. Generic Drug Enforcement Act authorizes FDA to debar an individual from working for a drug product applicant. Impose fines if company employs a debarred individual, up to $1 million. A debarred individual who works for an applicant firm can be fined up millions. Certification of compliance is required of applicants. Listing of debarred persons is available from www.fda.gov web link. Signed into law May 13, 1992, amended FD&C Act Sec. 306-308. Key concept: your actions are important. Do it right first time. The documents you prepare or review must be accurate, truthful and complete. How well you document your actions will have a significant impact on the success of the company. If you do it right, you will help the company. If you do it wrong, you may harm the company and may face personal consequences. Meaning of your signature: when you sign a document, it means you have checked and verified all the entries are correct. Key concept: understand the meaning of your own signature. Your signatures or initials next to handwritten entry always means you made the entry and performed that activity. If you encounter situations where this is not the case, you should clearly and completely document who did what and when. The meaning of your signature should always be clear to any reviewer. Do's and don'ts: always enter truthful information on every record. Ideal behavior: always enter information and data that is truthful and accurate. Actions to avoid: never record false or misleading information. Always enter data and information when performed. Ideal behavior: always make entries at the time activities actually occur. Always show actual date and time. Always, if omissions accidentally happens, enter the reasons, sign and date the appropriate record. Actions to avoid: never make entries before activities have occurred. Never make entries after the fact. Never change entries made by another person. Ideal behavior: if you detect an error on a record, Correct the same as per the guidance provided in SOP. Actions to avoid. Never enter initials or signatures of another person. Never change or modify entries made by someone else, even if it appears to be an obvious mistake. You must preserve all original documents. You should never discard an original GMP document under any circumstances. Once you start a record, never discard it and start over again. Once you have made an entry, it must not be erased, obliterated, or covered up. Always enter data and information when performed. Ideal behavior. Always keep original records, even if damaged or contains multiple errors or corrections. Always, once data and information have been recorded on a form, it becomes original. It must be kept no matter the circumstances. Actions to avoid. Never discard an original record and replace with a new record. Always make entries on official records. Ideal behavior. Always record your actions or findings on the record or forms that are described in the SOPs. Actions to avoid. Never use post-it notes or scraps of paper. Never keep your own personal notebooks. You will make mistakes, everyone does. It is what you do about the mistakes that matters. Key concept. Trying to cover up, hide, mistakes can lead to serious consequences. Trying to cover up, hide, mistake can have serious consequences for you and the company. The act of cover-up may at a minimum damage the credibility of the company. Do's and don'ts. Always record actual date. Corrections are made on original record. Ideal behavior. Always, if omissions or mistakes happen accidentally, enter on the reasons on the original record. Enter the date the correction was entered and sign. Reference attachments, if applicable, for example incidents, deviations. What are the actions to avoid? Never discard an original record and replace with a new or corrected version. If you find others made a mistake, always enter what and when you observed. Never change others' entries. Date out of time. Sequence from 2 February 25, 2020 1630 1715. February 26, 2020 1515 1630. February 24, 2020 1015 1125. February 27, 2020 1705 1810. February 28, 2020 1310 1410. Best example to explain the theory: never leave blank spaces. Temp date time signature. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.1. 15.7 June 7, 2007 10.15. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.2. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.25. 15.7 June 7, 2020. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.35. June 7, 2020 10.4. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.45. What if you discover an entry was missed? Ideal behavior. Always record actual dates or time for every entry. If you accidentally missed an entry, such as date, signature, explain what happened and record current date or time when you sign. Example: Ravi, October 3, 2020 for work performed on August 3, 2020. See explanation. Actions to avoid. Never go back afterwards and make entries that appear as if they were entered at an earlier time or earlier date. Never backdate a record. Error correction by drawing a single line through mistake and initial and date. Ideal behavior. February 6, 2020 March 6, 2020. Ravi, date error March 6, 2020. Always give reasons for corrections and write the actual date you made the correction. Never overwrite an original entry. Other norms to be adopted. Ideal behavior. Always enter NA if spaces on the forms are intentionally left blank. Record each value even if repetitive values are observed. Use indelible ink. Note when data have been transcribed from another source and attach copy of original source document. Actions to avoid. Never leave blank spaces. Use pencil or correction fluids. Use ditto marks or arrows to mean repeat entries. Make entries before the activity has occurred. Never use ditto marks for repeating entries. Template time signature. 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.1 15.7 10.15 15.7 10.2 15.7 10.25 15.7 15.7 10.35 15.7 10.4 15.7 June 7, 2020 10.45 Reviewing, verifying and checking. Reviewers, approvers and their designees must have the education, training or experience to review and or approve the record. The person who performs the task cannot review or approve their own work. Some documents require that the information is checked for accuracy and completeness by a second person. A review should include examination of technical correctness, regulatory compliance and compliance with corporate, site policies and procedures. Employee must not sign any document that is incorrect or cannot be verified. Employees may not sign for other employees unless designated. Approval of records, documents requires full signature and date. Initials and date are acceptable to indicate corrections made to a record document. Issues related to documentation. Case study number 1. Examples of data integrity violations detected during FDA inspections. Company A. FDA observed employee fraudulently signing weighing record for activity he did not perform. Company B. Records in FDA applications contained different signatures for the same person. Company C. Supervisors created logbooks after the fact for 2 years, after FDA requested to review logbooks. Case study number 2. Examples of data integrity violations detected during consultant audits. Company G. Cleaning employee was suspected of lying, so 5 FDA investigators returned to the plant during the next cleaning to simultaneously watch actual practices in 5 different areas. FDA confirmed employee had lied. Employee discarded project file, raw data, chromatograms, analytical worksheets, to hide records from detection by auditor, and company management. Company J. Entries for tomorrow's batch had been filled out. Company K. 1 employee had entered signature for 10 other employees. Case study number 3. Examples of data integrity violations detected during consultant audits. Company N. Logbook contained dated entries that were out of sequence. Company O. Desk drawer at analyst workbench contained multiple OAS worksheets that had been reported to QA. Company R. Various original entries for raw data had handwritten changes without showing identity of person making the change, or reason. To ensure business success, GMP documents and FDA submissions are critical to a business. Management must encourage every employee to engage in ethical conduct. Companies must not tolerate willful misconduct, mischief. Having awareness is not enough. Its adaptability and proper execution makes our documentation as good practices. Keep on. Happy learning. Thank you. AIM Knowledge Mantra. Thanks for watching, liking and subscribing my channel.